Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, partners, friends. What a fabulous gathering. So I'm just going to cover a few housekeeping notes. My name is Ron Hoffman. I'm Vice President of Six Ring. We normally dress up with all kinds of PPE in this place. We're not running chemicals today. We shut down our production. We do have water in the tank, so if anyone wants to go up and take a peek at what some of our test reactors look like, you're welcome to do that. We also encourage people after this short program to stay. We do have water, coffee, some snacks, but importantly, we also have our fabulous scientific and operational team here that can walk you through sort of what this process does. You'll see feedstock samples from Alberta, a large variety of them, but also from different regions of the world that we are testing right here. We have a product table, the various things that come out of the Six Ring process. So you'll be able to, we'll have, again, some of our talented scientists kind of explaining what the different products are, how they came to be, and why they're important to society. We've got a nice bottle of ethanol alcohol there made from aspen hardwood from Saskatchewan. I know this is Stampede time, but we're not giving out any of those samples. You can smell it though. And I got to say, we ordered coffee for a certain number of people, and we have more people than we had actually anticipated, but I'm not actually surprised. I'm not surprised for two reasons. Albertans are committed to a sustainable future, and we work together. So the various players here from all walks of industry, government, society, post-secondaries, we're all committed to collaborating together, supporting one another, and traveling this journey in unison. So we're thrilled by that. But the second reason I'm not surprised, and maybe the main reason, is Albertans have deep respect for Minister Rebecca Schultz and the work that the Ministry of Environment and Protected Area does at every level. So we are super thrilled to have the Honorable Rebecca Schultz with us, who I'll invite to the stage. She literally needs no introduction for anybody, except maybe Richard Hui, who flew in from Hong Kong, from CST Hong Kong. He's invested hundreds of millions of dollars in Alberta. He's here to invest in sustainability, so great to have Richard here from afar. Minister, please come to the podium.
Wow, well, I did not expect this morning. Look at this packed house. It is so awesome to be here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know with Stampede still in full swing, it feels wild saying that, like we're 7 days in and everybody is still going all day long, and you've all taken time out of your schedules to be here with us this morning. Now, I just spent a couple days in Newfoundland, and explaining to people what Stampede is, because I truly believe everything about it is magical, from the pancakes to the beef on a bun to the rodeo to the chucks, to everybody coming together to showcase what Alberta is all about. And I often say the Calgary Stampede really does capture a lot of what makes Alberta great. It is big, it is bold, it brings people together, and of course we all know it is the greatest show on earth. It is also a huge economic driver for businesses, big and small, right across our province. Small businesses are the heart of our economy. They make up 96% of all businesses and employ hundreds of thousands of people all across Alberta. They are the backbone of our communities, the drivers of our prosperity, and the direct product of our entrepreneurial and innovative spirit, which Albertans have long been known for. When it comes to reducing emissions, small businesses are experts at finding new ways to solve problems, streamline operations, and develop new technologies. Just look at Ever Technologies, a Calgary startup that's creating the world's first commercially operated geothermal Everloop in Germany, which I was able to tour and see as it was becoming commissioned just last August. Using technology perfected in the oil and gas sector, Ever is now going to start powering thousands of homes and businesses with geothermal energy. Another example, an amazing one, Carbon Upcycling, also a Calgary startup that's using CO2 emissions to enhance everyday materials like concrete, plastics, and batteries. Small and medium-sized businesses are risk takers and problem solvers by nature. They want to find new and better ways to do things, and they have the skills, talent, and expertise, especially in a place like Alberta. But of course, they can face barriers, whether that's the resources, the timing, the infrastructure, of course, capital, preventing them from getting their great ideas from concept to commercialization. That is why we're here to make this massive investment in Alberta's greatest resource, our people, our entrepreneurs, natural innovators, and small businesses that we're so incredibly proud of. This $44 million we're announcing today will help over 21 small and medium businesses scale up, pilot, demonstrate, and get their first-of-kind projects off the ground. We're tapping into that entrepreneurial and innovative spirit of Albertans to advance new technologies that will create jobs, reduce emissions, and grow the economy through projects where this funding, goes a long way. These projects touch all corners of our economy, which I think is pretty exciting, covering everything from power generation to agriculture to forestry to, of course, oil and gas, construction, electricity, and so much more. This includes funding for an AI-powered lighting system that will grow plants more efficiently while reducing energy costs, a new geothermal project that could one day help power homes and businesses in Greenview and across the province. Companies like our gracious hosts today, Six Ring, another fantastic example, who will receive $5 million to help transform their testing facility into a full-fledged commercial operation in Lethbridge County, harnessing the power of biomass technology like never before. Six Ring's journey exemplifies our province's entrepreneurial spirit, which of course I spoke of earlier and speak about everywhere I go. Beginning in oil and gas, they've evolved into biomass pioneers, creating renewable diesel, ethanol for sustainable aviation fuel, and a product doubling renewable gas production from our agricultural sector. Their bio-based solutions have the potential to one day be used and sold around the world. And that's what today is all about, investing in those Albertans who continue to put our province on the map as a world leader in energy innovation and developing the technologies that the world needs right now. Countries from around the world continue to look to Alberta for inspiration, and many provinces in Canada look to us also to be a voice of reason. I can say that after spending the last few days with my colleagues and counterparts, environment ministers, federal and provincial from across the country, especially when we're faced with, quite frankly, a federal government an environment minister that continually choose ideology, taxes, and punitive policies over investing in the technology, common sense, jobs, economy, affordability, and energy security that the world needs right now. Alberta has shown everyone that you can lead the way on emissions reduction, environmental stewardship, and responsible resource development without compromising our economy, sacrificing jobs, and of course affordability for struggling families, or essentially condemning citizens to energy poverty, which is a huge issue around the world right now. Alberta can be and should be, and of course will be, the global jurisdiction of choice when it comes to emissions reduction technology and meeting global energy demand that continues to rise every single day. So thank you to everyone involved in this project and the many others who are here today. Your work is vital and so appreciated. When I look around this room, and I have met with many of you. You are working on a variety of exciting projects in a variety of different areas. And this is what real leadership looks like. It's not about me. It's about me talking about the great work that you're doing and making sure that the world knows what is happening here in Alberta right now. It's about creating more energy, more jobs, and fewer emissions all at the same time. We've invested billions into technologies, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. I also, of course, now get to pass things over to Justin Reamer. I am very grateful for the work that Justin and the team at Emissions Reduction Alberta has done, and I'm happy to have him tell us a little bit more about this great funding competition today.
Just have to raise the mic a bit, just a little bit. Thank you, Minister Schultz, for your leadership and your commitment, your partnership. It is a sincere pleasure working with you, with the department, with the government of Alberta on behalf of what we do here at Emissions Reduction Alberta. And I'm excited to share the great news with our friends and colleagues gathered here today, as the minister has outlined. Small and medium-sized businesses make up some of the largest percentage of companies in Alberta. They form a critical part of the economic infrastructure that continue to shape Alberta now and into the future. And they are incredible sources of game-changing ideas that we need to reduce emissions and demonstrate clean technology solutions that are increasingly important element of our economy. The Government of Alberta's continued investment in their work is part of enabling our lower emissions economy. As Minister mentioned, my name is Justin Reamer, CEO of Emissions Reduction Alberta. A happy Stampede to everyone. I'm sure most of you may be getting stampeded out, maybe not, maybe you're getting your second win. Thank you to Six Ring for hosting us at your impressive facility. Really excited to see what's being done here. You do such amazing work and are a big, important part of the bioeconomy that is growing in this province. Six Ring and other funding recipients today are SMEs that represent the very best in Alberta innovation. And it's these smaller organizations that are changing the game and attracting the attention of global investors, national investors in this province's clean technology sector. As you know, ERA invests in revenues paid from the carbon levy into the Tier Fund to accelerate clean technology solutions. We are honored to be the trusted delivery partner of the Government of Alberta's Tier Fund and to play a critical role in delivering on the province's emission reduction and energy development plan. And it's the reason we're here today to announce these projects spearheaded by SMEs that have been selected through our Emerging Innovators Challenge to receive that tier funding. So today, as mentioned, we are investing $44 million in 21 projects worth over $162 million. These projects have the potential to reduce 5 million tons of emissions by 2050, and they could lead to almost $240 million in gross domestic product in Alberta by 2027. These projects span across sectors, developing technology in the fields of power generation, agriculture, forestry, oil and gas, construction, and more. From satellites that measure emissions and monitor wildfires to new innovative software solutions that optimize oil and gas development and the electricity grid, along with much, much more. I'm proud to announce that the Emerging Innovators Challenge funding recipients, happy to have so many of you here today, are living examples of the entrepreneurial, innovative spirit on which this province was founded on, and are working on the trenches daily to improve our environment in an economically competitive way. It's important you underline that economically competitive way element. Since there are 21 projects, I'll hold my breath and instead encourage you to review the one-pager provided by our Environment and Protected Areas partners. You can also find the project details on our website, eralberta.ca. But what I can say is these projects all involve piloting, demonstrating, or deploying the technology right here in the province, with site locations not only in Calgary and Edmonton, but in the hamlet of Sevens Persons, southwest of Medicine Hat, and Lacorie, out near Cold Lake. Many of these companies have joined us here today, and I encourage you to speak with them and learn about the great work that they're doing. Thank you to the teams of innovators for working with us and both strengthening our environment and our economy. ERA is celebrating 15 years of investing in emission reduction technology. Since 2009, we've committed close to $1 billion to 299 projects that are worth $8.6 billion. That's a funding leverage of for every dollar ERA invests, we generate $8. Pretty good return. In total, projects will spawn more than 35,000 person-years of employment. What an incredible story it is that the province has on its hands. This is a milestone. This is impact. And it's all due to the collaboration of people in this room and elsewhere, and for the leadership of the Government of Alberta. Not to mention all of our trusted partners. And of course, our project proponents. These numbers are only going to continue to grow as we continue to support the province's emission reduction and energy development plan with investments from the Tier Fund. And as we recognize our decade and a half of Alberta's innovation ecosystem, we've been reflecting on our past. This is not the first time we've dedicated a call to SMEs. Back in 2011, we supported 13 small, medium-sized companies in one of our earliest funding calls. We funded everything from carbon capture to energy efficiency. One of those projects funded back then was Carbon Engineering, a direct air capture firm that was incubated at the University of Calgary. We invested $500,000 into it. A few months ago, they sold for over $1 billion US dollars into the US. Huge return. Back in 2011, our board chair, Eric Newell, at the time, said the Clean Energy Fund has become a viable mechanism in Alberta for Alberta businesses to pioneer technologies that will achieve our climate change targets. And these words ring true today as they did back in 2011. In fact, more than half of the funded projects that we fund at ERA are led by SMEs, and we're proud of that. There are many reasons that you want to invest in SMEs, and the big one is to help advance the technologies to get them to market faster, to help them leverage our capital, the capital that they need to focus on growing their business so they can focus on developing their technology. Many times, these companies rely on internal friends or family to launch their businesses. And developing technologies is hard. It takes patient capital, which is often hard to acquire. So this investment from the Government of Alberta's Tier Fund will help these 21 companies advance their clean tech projects faster, grow their startups, and become more competitive on a global stage, not to mention drive growth and jobs. And with any luck, we will have another carbon engineering in the mix soon. Congratulations to the teams behind the projects today, and on behalf of ERA, we are honored and excited to be part of your journey. I'll now hand over things to Scott Treadwell, President of Six Rings and our host for this announcement this morning. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. As mentioned, I'm Scott Treadwell, President of Six Ring. I'd like to thank Minister Schultz and Justin Reimer for joining us today, and obviously everybody from the partnership and the ecosystem for being part of this. On behalf of the Six Ring team, I'd like to thank Premier Danielle Smith, Minister Schultz, and the Government of Alberta for the leadership and support shown to entrepreneurs that are working to grow and diversify Alberta's economy while fulfilling our shared duty to do so sustainably. To Justin and the Emission Reductions Alberta team, we deeply appreciate not only the support announced today, but also the way in which ERA works with industry to create programs that are realistic yet meaningful. This grant will help Six Ring deliver on commercializing our technology in multiple ways. First, it reduces the required equity for our facility and improves economic returns. It also signals to investors critically that an independent third party has vetted both our technology and our business plan and is satisfied that an investment in Six Ring is a prudent one. Finally, it is a signal to our team, our partners, and the world that Alberta is firmly behind its entrepreneurs and believes in the ability of our people to deliver technologies with real benefit and value to our society. Our facility in Lethbridge will process non-food biomass to create high-value chemicals, materials, and fuels that offer sustainable, low-carbon alternatives to the market. Because we operate at ambient conditions, our process does not destroy the amazing chemistry that's present in biomass, preserving it for multiple end uses like fuels and additives, industrial and specialty chemicals, and even helping other biofuel producers like renewable natural gas, where our cellulose can almost double biogas volumes, or ethanol, where our cellulose can be used by food-based facilities to make non-food-based or 2G ethanol that is critical to decarbonization efforts. In closing, I'd like to thank first and foremost the Six Ring team. Without your intelligence, hard work, and dedication, there is nothing for us to build. In accepting this support, I'm doing so on your behalf, and it's my honor every day to be your partner on this adventure. Finally, I'd like again to thank Premier Smith, Minister Schultz, and the Government of Alberta for their leadership and support, not only in enabling the great work done by Justin and the Emissions Reduction Alberta team, but for seeking out ways to support business and employment growth in our province. Thanks very much again.
We will now open the floor to questions. Media can line up right at the mic in the middle. See no questions in the room. We'll go to, one question in the room.
Sorry, this is for the minister first. You just talked about you just got back from Newfoundland and Labrador. Minister Guilbeault was there. Can you talk about your discussions with him, if you had any, and how this announcement today relates to any conversation that you did have with Minister Guilbeault in Newfoundland?
Yes, so Minister Guilbeault and I did have a meeting. I think what I find very frustrating about the federal government is that they say they engage with provinces, territories, and of course Indigenous communities and businesses across the country. Unfortunately, what we see is a conversation that's often a checkbox and feedback that's never really accepted by the federal government. So in that meeting, I reiterated our opposition to the clean electricity regulations, the upcoming oil and gas emissions cap, which of course we know now, based on all of the reports that have come out, is a production cap on our energy industry, which again is an area of provincial jurisdiction. I am pleased that this year we were able to get, there's a news release that comes out at the end of these federal, provincial, territorial meetings, and this year we were able to get the importance of the federal government respecting provincial jurisdiction in that communique. We also talked about Bill C-59. We talked about that in the news conference, but it came up in a panel that we had on carbon capture, utilization, and storage. What the government has done in that amendment to that bill and stifling businesses and quite frankly nonprofits as well about talking about the great work that they're doing for fear of legal costs and other repercussions, essentially having to respond to people who just don't like the fossil fuel industry and will do anything and everything to shut down those conversations. It is problematic, and we heard that when we were there. And so, we focus on building relationships across the country. We do have allies in other parts of the country. There are other provinces and territories that we are working so closely with to highlight the great work that's being done. Newfoundland also wants to talk about offshore wind. They also want to talk about carbon capture, utilization, and storage, the potential that they have there. Other provinces, Saskatchewan, Ontario, want to talk about SMRs and other emissions reduction technology. Unfortunately, though, the ideology from the federal government sometimes gets in the way. I could probably talk a little longer about that, but I'm gonna leave it right there.
Follow-up question, it's either to yourself, Minister, or to Justin. How were these companies chosen to get this funding? Was there a process that you looked at, or was there just an open call for anyone to apply for? I just want to know the process and why you selected these companies over potential other companies.
I'll let Justin talk about the specifics, but I do just want to articulate, we work really closely with Emissions Reduction Alberta. When they are working and their board is working to announce funding calls, of course we want to make sure it's aligned with where the province and the government is headed. When we look at what we want to see out of these funding calls, we of course want to see emissions reduction, and these projects, I believe by 2050, commit to reduce 5 million tons of CO2 by 2050. So that's a huge impact, I would say, on the emission side. But of course, they also look at economic viability, job creation. There will be, I believe, over 850 some jobs committed to be created through the companies that are receiving this funding today. And then I'll hand it over to Justin to talk just a little bit more about how that actually works.
Thank you, Minister. So just in addition to this, yes, it was an open competitive call that was launched several months ago. Typically for an ERA funding call process, we get 10 times the amount of funding ask that we have available to fund. So there's a process, a two-stage process with an expression of interest and then a full project proposal for those that get to the second stage. And we have a series of independent reviewers that look at things from technical, greenhouse gas methodology and quantification, business expertise, other sorts of engineering expertise to evaluate these projects on an independent basis. They come together and discuss their reviews, and we come to a consensus around which projects meet the highest bar and the highest mark. So it enables us to get a lot of deal flow into one competitive process and to pick the highest quality projects we believe will be best able to deliver on the objectives they have achieved.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions in the room? Seeing none, we will now go to the phones.
Next is Jonathan Bradley from Western Standard.
Hello, Minister Schultz. Thank you for taking my question. So you spoke about $44 million being allocated to 21 projects to reduce emissions for small and medium-sized businesses. How did you decide on the $44 million amount?
Sorry, Jonathan, I just didn't catch that last part of your question there. Can you just repeat the last line? How did you decide on the $44 million amount? And so part of that is that we have dollars every year within our budget that come into the tier fund. That, of course, is the levy on emitters here in Alberta. There are a number of ways that we reinvest those dollars back into emissions reduction and technology and innovation here in Alberta. Part of that is by partnering with Emissions Reduction Alberta. They have an independent board, so it's not Minister Rebecca Schultz, who's not an engineer, going through all of these projects and picking my favorites. This is a board made up of people who are experts, who are investors, who are part of that innovation ecosystem. We have an excellent board, a very strong one, I would say, and so they look at all of the proposals that come forward and then make the decision as to how we're going to invest those dollars. Again, it's a combination of, I would say, viability, emissions reduction, and of course cost. We also wanted to see projects selected in a variety of sectors, so not just in traditional oil and gas, but in biomass, biofuels, agriculture, forestry, electricity, you name it. And that's what I think really does set our tier program apart. When we look at what's happening across the country, there are lots of folks looking to what we're doing here in Alberta right now. When it comes to the direct amount, what we've seen is in some past years, there's always some money that maybe goes unspent or unused for a variety of different reasons. And so this was the dollar amount that we had available for this competition. But of course, there's always going to be more to come.
Did you have a
Okay,
follow-up?
and my follow-up pertains to a comment you made earlier on in the press conference. So you spoke about Alberta having a commitment to reducing emissions while respecting the economy or supporting the economy, you could say. Why is it important that provinces find a balance between respecting the environment and supporting the economy when it comes to environmental initiatives?
I think I caught your question, essentially why we don't want to choose between emissions reduction and supporting our economy. This is what I said to Minister Guilbeault when we first met, which was just over a year ago now, that I believe that this is a time where, as someone who is elected to represent everyday, hardworking people of Alberta, that I would hope that governments could put ideology aside and really do the right thing to address all of the concerns that Canadians have, the top of which right now is absolutely affordability. I can tell you I was in Washington maybe 2 weeks ago. The conversation there was about energy security and reliability. We hear that too. We saw it here in January. So you cannot talk about the environment and emissions reduction without talking about jobs. A strong economy that allows us to invest in the services people rely on, like healthcare, like education, like infrastructure for a growing population that we see here, but also making sure that the people that I'm elected to represent, Albertans, have access to safe, affordable, reliable energy. That will not go away. And unfortunately, what we've seen from the federal government is really just punitive policies that are driven to shut down one aspect of our economy, which puts people, jobs, livelihoods, and the overall Alberta and Canadian economies at risk. I think that that's irresponsible, and I think other provinces are seeing it as well. I mean, in Atlantic Canada, I can tell you the amount of times they raise the carbon tax and the impacts that that has on everyday people, on small businesses. We heard from small businesses who pay thousands and thousands of dollars every single month on a carbon tax that isn't, quite frankly, reducing emissions. I think what we're doing here really is leading the way. And Alberta's record is a good one. We are reducing emissions every single day. Per barrel emissions intensity in the oil sands has gone down. Electricity emissions have gone down by 53%. Our methane emissions reduction, and I'm going to say thanks in part to a lot of the programs and investments made through our tier fund, have allowed us to hit our 45% methane emissions reduction goal 3 years ahead of schedule, and even better, for $600 million less cost than if we had done things the way that the federal government wanted to do them. That's why we certainly the Premier Danielle Smith is a huge advocate in essentially just talking about how important it is for our provincial jurisdiction to be protected. How can you tell I've been talking about this for 3 days ad nauseum, and I get a little passionate about it, but I think that that's why we're so fortunate to have a leader and a premier who's really leading the charge in that conversation. And then we're seeing other governments and other provinces and territories across the country saying, you know what, we see what's going on and we want to work with you too. So, you know, I think common sense over ideology, and I'm proud to talk about Alberta's record, and I do talk about Alberta's record every single day, but we absolutely can't meet some, you know, and I would say for some, the goal isn't net zero, it's absolute zero fossil fuels because they don't like our energy industry. We can't do that. We can't lose those jobs. We can't risk our economy and the livelihoods of everyday people.
Thank you,
I'll just leave it
Minister.
there.
Is Lisa Johnson at the Canadian Press. Hi, can you hear me okay? I have a question for Justin.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I'm just looking at your annual report from 22-23. And I see a lot of forward projections on cumulative emissions reductions by 2050, for example. But I'm wondering, just looking backwards, are you guys measuring the emissions reductions from the projects that you have funded already, projects that have come to completion? Am I missing something in this annual report here, or can you point me in the direction of where that measurement might be?
Sorry, can you repeat the last sentence? It just came in a little choppy.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where and how you're measuring emissions reductions for the projects that you've already funded in past years.
Yes.
Is that going, yeah, where would I find that?
Yes. So we have a third-party independent verification process for measuring all of our emissions. And so the projects that we're initiating funding, there's a projection on the emissions they're going to reduce. And then we check that at the completion of the project as to, and verifying that those emission reductions have actually taken place. So there's a mix of both projections and actual reductions in that forecast that you see. I think there's a 2030 and a 2050 forecast. So it's a mix, but would be happy to talk to you further about more detailed measures offline.
Okay, thanks very much.
There are no more questions on the line. That concludes today's press conference. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.